Across every continent and spanning over 200 distinct cultures, humanity shares a specific, recurring memory. We find the story of a civilization-ending deluge in civilizations that were separated by thousands of miles and several millennia. Determining the reality of this event requires looking for the points where ancient texts, archaeological remains, and the geological record actually converge. In 1872, an assistant at the British Museum named George Smith began translating a set of shattered clay fragments recovered from the ruins of ancient Nineveh. He was deciphering the Epic of Gilgamesh, a poem that reached back into the 3rd millennium BC. The most significant discovery was Tablet XI. It contains the account of Utnapishtim, a king tasked with surviving a great flood, a narrative that parallels the later story of Noah with striking precision. The text describes a divine warning, the construction of a massive boat to house living beings, a terrifying storm, and the eventual release of birds to find dry land as the waters receded. This wasn't a standalone story. Philologists have traced these elements back to the even older Atrahasis epic. Scholars view these texts as a shared cultural inheritance in Mesopotamia, a literary record of a trauma that stayed with the population for centuries. These cuneiform tablets represent the earliest form of disaster reporting, capturing the moment a localized catastrophe became a permanent part of the human story. In 1928, archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley began a massive excavation at Ur in southern Iraq. He dug deep beneath the royal cemetery, hoping to find the first layers of human habitation. This cross-section from Woolley's test pits shows a massive anomaly. At an elevation roughly 10 meters above sea level, he discovered a 3-meter-thick layer of clean, sterile mud, separating the lower and upper layers of pottery. Woolley viewed this void as physical proof of a singular global flood, wiping the region clean of human life. However, recent geochemical analysis of that sediment suggests a different cause. The mud was likely the result of rapid river avulsion, where tectonic shifting forced the Euphrates to violently break its banks and find a new course, burying the local delta under meters of silt in a matter of days. Woolley found a catastrophic flood, but the dirt reveals a local disaster instead of a planetary event. Beyond individual rivers, the geological record shows a much larger regional shift in water levels as the last ice age came to an end. Panel C of this dataset shows salinity versus depth in the Marmara Sea, supporting the outflow hypothesis. For thousands of years, a two-layered flow existed: brackish Black Sea water exported along the surface, while denser Mediterranean water pushed inward along the bottom. A similar process occurred in the Persian Gulf. Between 11,000 and 3,000 BC, sea levels fluctuated and rose, eventually drowning a dry, fertile valley and forcing early coastal civilizations to completely abandon their settlements. The geological record shows that for many societies, the Great Flood was the generational ocean rise, a relentless, slow-motion process that swallowed their world. This leaves us with a difficult question. If the physical evidence in the Near East points to different regional events, rather than one global storm, why do the Americas, China, and Australia all share the same narrative? One possibility is cultural diffusion, the idea that a specific severe trauma in the Near East was so impactful that the story traveled across the globe through centuries of migration and trade. Another explanation is independent catastrophe. Nearly all early human civilizations settled in the same high-risk environments, river valleys and coastal plains. As the Ice Age glaciers melted, global sea levels rose significantly. This means that almost every early culture would have eventually witnessed their own independent drowning event as the water reclaimed the land. The evidence doesn't describe one single identical event. Instead, the convergence of tectonic river shifts in Ur, the drowning of the Persian Gulf, and global ocean rise suggests that the flood is a collective shorthand, a primary way early humans categorized the many different ways water transformed their world. Does the flood myth represent a specific memory, or is it a metaphor for our ongoing vulnerability to the natural world? Share your perspective with us in the comments below. And to see who exactly ruled these ancient Mesopotamian cities before the waters rose, click here to watch our episode on the Anunnaki.